Warning, this video contains content suitable for viewers aged 18 years and above. Viewer discretion is advised.
The protagonist was seen in the neighborhood coughing. Entering a dark alley, a deep cough echoed, carrying far into the alley. Rita, our protagonist, staggered out, coughing and clutching her hand over her mouth as she gazes at the blood that stained her hand. Sick and desperate, she muttered, "Not yet. I refuse to die yet." Rita continued climbing the stairs, defying death with every step, her determination a stark contrast to the weakness overtaking her body. As she ascended, memories flooded her mind. Her life had plummeted into despair due to one man. At 16, her wealthy family was falsely accused by him, leading to her mother's tragic suicide. By 19, Rita endured abuse, her status reduced to that of a pub waitress. Now 23, she suffered from a terminal illness, awaiting death's inevitable arrival. Amidst her struggles, Rita received an unexpected chance at life when Verta Alberhart, the daughter of another noble family, approached her. Verta envied Rita's impending death, expressing a desire to abandon life without effort. Rita, taken aback, dismissed Verta as a contemptuous individual, seemingly feigning enlightenment. Pressing on, Rita grappled with the notion of accepting her fate. Refusing to yield, she declared her determination to live even if it meant bargaining with the devil. Encountering a powerful fortune teller, he proposed a sinister deal, exchanging Rita's sick body for Verta's healthy one. Rita stunned at first, but then a wicked laugh escaped her lips. Filled with newfound malice and desperation, she agreed to the proposition, fully embracing her dark fate. After the transformation, Rita found herself inhabiting Verta's body. A curious blend of annoyance and satisfaction washed over her as she surveyed her new form in the mirror. Foolish girl, she mused, noting Verta's less-than-ideal personality contrasted with her physically appealing appearance. Despite her misgivings, Rita couldn't deny the allure of her new body. With a mix of gratitude and a tinge of malicious intent, she silently thanked Verta for this unexpected gift, knowing it would offer her opportunities she had never before imagined. As she scrutinized her reflection, she leaned closer to the mirror, her eyes darkening with a hint of malice. "I wonder if she's dead," she muttered under her breath, the thought of her former self meeting demise igniting a twisted sense of satisfaction within her. It must have been quite the shock to wake up as Rita, the terminal consumption patient, she mused, turning away from the mirror. But I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, she should be grateful. For a cowardly, pathetic girl who has failed time and time again to take her own life, a body that will actually kill her is the perfect gift, she thought, a dark smirk playing at the corners of her lips. As Rita examined her new body, she couldn't help but notice the remnants of Verta's struggles. Weak, she scoffed, observing the cuts on her wrists. It was evident that Verta had attempted to take her own life but failed. Rita licked the blood to stop the bleeding, a grim reminder of Verta's struggles that she now carried with her. Interrupting her thoughts, a knock on the door startled Rita. "Miss, it's me, Ian. May I come in?" a voice called from outside. She grabbed a robe as confusion clouded Rita's mind as she wondered who Ian was. "Come in," she called out, hastily covering herself with a robe. Ian, the butler of the Alberhart household, entered the room, mistaking her for Verta. With a respectful greeting, he observed Rita closely. Rita couldn't shake off the strange look in his eyes. Judging from appearances, he's clearly a butler, but what's with that wicked stare, she pondered, her mind racing to make sense of the situation. "Verta, you crazy girl, what in the world have you been up to?" she thought, struggling to piece together the puzzling encounter. "You look like you're in good spirits today," Ian remarked, his gaze lingering on Rita. "Yes, today isn't so bad," Rita replied, trying to maintain the facade. Ian expressed his worries at seeing Rita downcast recently but was happy that she seemed to have changed her mind. Rita, acknowledging his observation, replied affirmatively, suggesting she had indeed decided to make some changes. As she pondered over what exactly he meant by this, Ian's concern heightened as he noticed the cuts on her wrists. "Miss, you've injured yourself again?" Ian exclaimed in fear, his voice betraying genuine worry. Rita felt a sense of detachment towards Ian's distress even though she inhabited Verta's body. "No matter how much you do this, nothing will change," Ian chided gently, his words tinged with resignation as he addressed the recurring self-inflicted harm. Rita listened as Ian spoke about her engagement to Count Lawrence's family, a revelation that caught her off guard. What? This girl had a fiancé, she thought, feeling a surge of dread at the unexpected news of an impending marriage to someone she didn't know. As Ian held her injured hand, Rita couldn't shake off the apprehension looming over her. "An arranged marriage with the Lawrence family isn't so terrible," Ian remarked, attempting to reassure her. "After all, the institution of marriage offers many benefits besides the love of a husband." Rita couldn't help but wonder if this was the reason why Verta was so miserable as to resort to self-harm. Yet she found herself pondering the supposed benefits of such an arrangement, her mind swirling with unanswered questions. As Ian's gaze shifted towards her bosom, Rita felt a blush rising to her cheeks. Decided to play dumb, she feigned innocence at his suggestive glance. "It appears you've truly had a change of heart." "Very good, miss," Ian commented, his smirk betraying a hint of desire, his tone laced with subtle implications. "Well then, may I help you relax like usual? Since you'll have to get used to it soon," leaving her stunned. Suddenly Ian approached Rita, causing her heart to race with uncertainty. He yanked her into his arms with a swift motion as she screamed, then placed her on the bed, leaving Rita startled. Uncertain of his intentions, Rita tried to maintain her composure, knowing that any sudden refusal might raise alarm, as Ian leaned closer. Ian removed his glove and spoke softly, "Allow me, miss," as he caressed her face. He caressed her thigh as she was unable to resist responding to his touches, igniting her arousal, and whispered, "You have loosened up nicely. Let me take it a step further. Isn't it odd to remain passive?" What was Verta up to with this butler, that eccentric girl? Rita pondered, grappling to comprehend the situation as Ian took off his glasses. "Just a bit longer. Let me assist you in unwinding further. You'll need to become accustomed to this soon," he murmured, safeguarding his glasses as he gently widened her legs. "Wait, this is surreal." Vain Verta entwined with a butler, as she mused. Lost in a haze of conflicting sensations, Rita succumbed to the throes of ecstasy, her moans filling the room. The mere idea of a butler engaging in such behavior with the daughter of the household seemed utterly bizarre to her. Eventually she reached her limits, releasing a loud cry of ecstasy as her body surrendered to the rhythms beyond her control. After their intimate moment concluded, Ian tenderly caressed Rita's face, his cheeks flushed as he addressed her as "my beautiful lady." He then spoke of the Lawrence family's promising future in politics, assuring Rita that she would find contentment in the decisions she made in due time. With a gentle kiss to her hand, he urged her to rest as he made his exit, leaving Rita to contemplate the life Verta had been living as she clenched the sheet. As she sank into the comforting embrace of her bathtub, Rita grappled with her thoughts, acknowledging her reluctance to tolerating such behavior despite her recent transformation. Yet she understood the imperative of preserving appearances and refraining from arousing suspicion, at least for the time being. Determined to keep a watchful eye on Ian, Rita rose from the bathtub, enveloping her body in a bathrobe, shedding the remnants of her previous life with determination. Rita before the body switch could never express her malice. She had to hide it away. As she traversed the castle garden, the narration continued, "In that bottom-feeder life, I couldn't even afford powerless malice." Absent-mindedly she admired a rose, plucking it from the stem only to crush it, the narration continuing, "The moment I attracted the attention of the strong, I would have been squashed." Gazing at their family photo, Rita reflected deeply before turning away with conviction, murmuring to herself, "The old me with that wretched life has perished." With a determined gaze she reaffirmed, "Now, I am the Alberhart's sole daughter, Verta Alberhart." With a newfound sense of purpose, Rita seized control of her destiny, fully embracing her role as Verta Alberhart, the esteemed heiress of the prestigious family. Summoning her maids, Rita commanded their attention. She demanded for her dresses be brought, and as they were presented, she examined them with a critical eye, unimpressed by the array before her. With precision and authority, she asked for the fastest writer among them, to which a maid raised her hand. She asked her to bring paper and transcribe her instructions, to which she replied in the affirmative. Without hesitation, Rita conveyed her decision to discard the dresses, signaling her unwavering resolve, stunning the maids. She gazed at a particular dress. The maid looked at her with evident confusion, unsure of Rita's intentions. "These ones could work with some adjustments," Rita remarked, eyeing the dresses before her. "The neckline must go down here," she instructed, pointing to a red dress, and continued, "and the back should go down this far," detailing the desired alterations to the maid. "On the upper body, remove all the excessive embellishments and rid these dresses of those ghastly frills," she concluded before sitting down. Confusion clouded the maid's thoughts as she processed the lady of the household's peculiar requests. These particular dresses had been favorites of the lady, making Rita's directives all the more perplexing. "That's enough for my wardrobe. Go around the boutiques in the city and gather all the spring season pamphlets within the week," Rita commanded the maids in unison. They acknowledged her order with a chorus of agreement. "Jana and Sonia, I have a task for you both. Follow me," Rita instructed, summoning two of her maids as they both looked at each other in confusion. They trailed behind her quietly until they reached the door to a room. "Wait here," Rita directed them before disappearing into the room, shutting the door behind her. Alone in the room, Rita couldn't help but grin mischievously. She slipped off her shoes and tiptoed to the door, ensuring she wouldn't be heard. Pressing her ear against the door, Rita recognized the potential for valuable insights held by the maids about the household. Aware that they often engaged in casual conversations when idle, she patiently awaited their dialogue. Eventually, Sonia broke the silence, questioning Verta's prolonged absence, prompting Rita to listen intently for any further revelations. Maybe she intends to rearrange her furniture? After all, Count Lawrence's son is visiting next week, Jana speculated. "No way. Verta despises her fiancé, so I doubt she'd bother rearranging her furniture just to make a good impression," Sonia retorted. Rita absorbed their conversation with keen interest, noting that Verta hates her fiancé. The mention of her fiancé's disinterest in her was also noted, which raised questions about his frequent visits to the Alberhart household. "His physique is quite impressive, isn't it?" Jana remarked. "Perhaps it's because of his stoic demeanor," she added thoughtfully. "He consistently brings his friend along to visit his fiancée," as she observed, prompting Rita to ponder the significance of this companion's presence. The revelation about the Lawrence family's connections to Marquis Carter left Rita stunned. "That's likely why the master orchestrated this marriage," one of the maids speculated. Learning that Verta's fiancé was Marquis Carter's right-hand man stirred a familiar hatred within Rita, causing her cheek to flush with resentment. "What an intriguing twist," Rita muttered to herself, her eyes ablaze with malice. She hadn't forgotten the pivotal role the Carter family played in her descent from Baron Wicket's esteemed daughter to a lowly pub waitress. As this resentment fueled her, she whispered with venomous satisfaction, "Magnificent Verta, I'm truly relishing your life." Rita pondered quietly to herself, her mind swirling with questions about the recent events that had transpired. "I've always wondered what drove him to meddle in the affairs of Baron Wicker's family and then chase out the family's young daughter. Why did the second son of the all-powerful Marquis Carter decide to meddle in the trivial affairs of Baron Wicker?" she murmured, her hands clasped tightly against her mouth. Brooding deeply, "I still don't know, but it's all right because now I'll find out for myself," she continued, a hint of determination creeping into her voice. "Just you wait, proud Carter," she said with a wicked grin. "After all he's done to screw me over, it's only right he gets a taste of his own medicine, don't you think?" she smiled wickedly. As she contemplated her plans, Jana and Sonia seemed weary from waiting. The sudden opening of the door startled the maids, but Rita remained composed. "I'd like the perfumes organized, bring them all out," she instructed with a smile. Rita considered perfumes to be like a hidden veil, capable of intoxicating men. Even the cheap perfume she wore as a barmaid had a powerful effect, she mused, imagining the impact of Verta's exquisite collection. Even though her taste in dresses was a mess, she's got quite an excellent perfume collection, she thought. A knock at the door snapped Rita back to reality. Who is it? She asked sharply as Ian, the servant, popped his head into the room. He informed her of the early arrival of her fiancé, prompting him to advise Rita to consider the implications for the two families' relationship. Is that so? Will he be coming with his friend again? Rita inquired, her gaze sharp. That barren gentleman. Yes. I'm told he'll be coming as well, Ian confirmed, which only deepened Rita's suspicions. How is it that Baron Jacquard never misses a visit? Does he not tire of it? She questioned, scrutinizing Ian's response. Unlike some, he seems quite loyal to his master. Wouldn't you agree, Ian? She asked. I couldn't say, miss. Well then I shall take my leave, he declared. Ian's departure left Rita pondering his behavior. He was so earnest about my fiancé, so why wouldn't he mention the friend, she wondered. Even stranger, he seems to be startled at my mention of the Baron. Ian, Lawrence's son, his friend, all very suspicious. As the anticipated day arrived, Count Alberhart's fiancé made his entrance, marking the beginning of Rita's plan to uncover the truth behind recent events. Rita stood before the mirror, dressed in a stunning black dress that accentuated her beauty. The scent of her perfume enveloped her as she noticed the scars on her wrists, remnants of Verta's failed suicide attempt. I don't like it. I can't believe one would damage such a beautiful body, she thought, attempting to rub away the scars to no avail. Miss, your fiancé and his gentleman friend have arrived. Shall I show them in? Jana asked, holding a tray. Rita agreed. She dropped the tray, and as she turned to leave, she found herself face to face with Rita, who blocked her way. Miss, she called, surprised, causing her to pause. Send Sana to show my fiancé in. Jana, you stay here with me, Rita ordered firmly. Pardon? How would I? I would be out of place, Jana protested, lacking confidence. Rita's apprehension grew as she considered her options. Turning her gaze to a nearby cupboard, she walked towards it and opened it. She spotted a mopstick inside, her smile taking on a dangerous edge, sending chills to the maid. Miss, you can't mean. Jana started, clearly unsettled by Rita's intentions. Well, come on now, get in, Rita commanded, prompting Jana to comply reluctantly. As Rita's fiancé and the Baron entered the castle, the maids blushed at the sight of the handsome guests. They strode in confidently to meet their host, unaware that Verta was now Rita. Verta, my beautiful fiancé, Jean exclaimed upon seeing Rita as his face flushed. It's been a long time, Jean, she replied while he reached for her hand to kiss it. He said, too long, Miss Alberhart. Rita chuckled softly, finding Jean surprisingly handsome. Baron Jacquard stepped forward and also kissed Rita's hand, though she couldn't help but notice his lack of land and the uncertain future of his title. Is that why he's acting as both guard and servant to Jean? Still, to come together every time to meet Jean's fiancé, she pondered silently as she exchanged pleasantries with the Baron. Ah, we meet again, Baron Jacquard. You must have a great deal of time on your hands, she remarked, attempting to mask her discomfort. The Baron's response made Rita uneasy, and she forced a smile as she tried to withdraw her hand. His unusual stare only added to her unease, leaving her questioning his motives. This jerk is suspicious too, Rita thought to herself as she observed the behavior of Baron Jacquard as she withdrew her hand from his. I hope the refreshments I've prepared are to your liking, she said politely as she guided her guests to their seats. Please sit, she offered with a smile, gesturing towards the chairs. Jean and Baron Jacquard exchanged nods before taking their seats. Rita was taken aback when her fiancé chose to sit opposite her, while the Baron settled next to her. What is he doing? Rita wondered, astonished by the arrangement. Jean's soft smile only added to Rita's confusion. Another man is sitting next to his betrothed, yet this fiancé has the nerve to smile, she thought to herself, mustering a fake smile in return. Baron Jacquard looked at Jean, who gave him a nod. As the Baron leaned closer to Rita and nudged her. She felt a surge of discomfort. What in the world is going on? I can't afford to act rashly here, she thought, trying to maintain her composure. You don't look quite so uncomfortable today. I take it you've changed your mind? Jean broke the silence, addressing Rita directly as he smiled. She struggled to make sense of the situation, attempting to decipher Jean's intentions. I thought it'd be a bit ridiculous of me to be so stubborn without reason. That's why I've decided to try for now, Rita replied, her words puzzling Jean further. Very true. As expected, you're quite sensible, he remarked, causing Rita to study his expression closely. When I look into his eyes, I can see lust and to an extent caution. But it also seems like he finds me a pain to deal with. Rita analyzed Jean's demeanor, detecting a hint of lust and caution in his eyes. Despite her discomfort, she forced a smile at his words, quickly concluding that her fiancé harbored no genuine affection for Verta. Jean's nod towards Baron Jacquard only added to Rita's confusion. Before she could comprehend the situation, the Baron stood up, seized her arm, turning her to face him. Fear gripped Rita as she found herself pinned down on the couch, unable to comprehend the Baron's intentions. What the hell is this? Rita thought, her heart racing with fear as the Baron forcefully kissed her. She pleaded for him to stop, but he ignored her protests, continuing to exert his control over her. Rita found herself increasingly uneasy with Baron Jacquard's forceful advances. Despite her discomfort, she mustered the strength to protest, uttering, "Please don't touch me." Ignoring her pleas, Baron Jacquard continued, trailing kisses down her neck, yet Rita persisted in her protest, shoving him away as she struggled to catch her breath. Ignoring her defiance, Baron Jacquard provocatively licked his finger, intensifying Rita's discomfort. Meanwhile, Jean, his breath uneven with arousal, taunted, "How does it feel to be kissed and caressed in front of your fiancé, Verta?" his perverse fascination evident in his tone. She flinched, her thoughts laced with contempt. "How does it feel?" "It feels like utter misery, you despicable man." Rita seethed with anger towards Jean, resenting his perverse enjoyment of her distress. His lecherous gaze, filled with perverse fascination, only served to fuel her indignation. "Your pale body trapped and violated by the bronze and muscled Jacquard is a truly beautiful sight," he uttered, his words dripping with depravity. "It's as if a demon is deflowering an angel," he continued, his heart throbbing with increasing excitement. "Ha, as if," Rita mused internally. "What a perverted bastard. No wonder Verta hated him," she thought, her disdain for Jean growing stronger. "Just great, now on to the next step," he was saying, but Rita cut him off abruptly. She had reached her limit and expressed her firm desire to stop. "I'm trying to take baby steps," she asserted, her voice strained with frustration. But Jean disregarded her feelings, pressing her to continue despite her protests. His mention of Ian's involvement in his disturbing plans struck Rita deeply as she paused. "You haven't slept with that man, have you?" "I thought he would be useful, but it seems I was wrong," Jean insinuated, his words dripping with disdain and disappointment. Rita felt a pang of betrayal, realizing the extent of Jean's manipulation and deceit. As Jean laid bare his sinister intentions, Rita struggled to comprehend the depths of his manipulation and cruelty, recognizing that she could no longer afford to be naive in the face of such deception. "After I specifically told him I wanted to watch your virginity being taken away on our wedding night," he said with a brooding tone. With a steely determination, Rita rose to her feet, resolute in her decision to no longer partake in Jean's twisted schemes. She recognized the paramount importance of safeguarding herself from those who sought to exploit and harm her. This is why it's so difficult when your trust is broken. Now I have to be suspicious about everything again. "I suppose there's no reason to play nice anymore," Jean remarked coldly as he instructed Baron Jacquard to persist. Rita felt a chill run down her spine, a stark reminder of the manipulative men she now faced. Despite the potential consequences, she resolved to stand her ground against their deceit and coercion. Rita resisted, firmly telling Baron Jacquard to stop as she stepped backward. However, her threat to scream did little to deter him as he forcefully pinned her against the wall, his intentions unmistakable. Just as the situation seemed to spiral out of control, Jana's sudden outburst startled everyone present. "Take your filthy hands off her immediately," she commanded, stunning the room as she brandished a mop stick in defense of Rita. She bravely confronted Baron Jackard in defense of Rita, screaming, "How dare you!" Baron Jackard managed to dodge the hit from Jana's mop stick. "How dare you threaten Miss Alberhart in her own home?" "You call yourselves gentlemen," Jana declared sternly. Rita was stunned by Jana's courage, thinking, "Holy shit. She is so cool." Jean was displeased by the interruption, but he quickly attempted to salvage the situation by feigning regret for his actions. Hastily he retreated with Baron Jackard as he wore an expression of discontent at how the situation had unfolded. Rita, now safe but shaken, sank onto the couch, relief flooding through her. Jana, still emotional from the confrontation, questioned whether her intervention had exacerbated the situation. Meanwhile, Rita, deeply grateful for Jana's bravery, instructed her to fetch Ian, recognizing the need to address the matter further. As Jana went to find Ian, tears welled up in her eyes. She chastised herself for interfering in the affairs of nobles, fearing Rita's potential anger and the possibility of expulsion. When Jana returned with Ian, he acknowledged his presence as Rita called his name, to which he responded promptly. Rita wasted no time in issuing commands, demanding that he triple Jana's pay immediately. Ian complied with a bow, acknowledging Rita's authority. Turning to Jana, Rita declared that she would be her personal maid. Jana, taken aback, stuttered in disbelief, questioning how someone like herself, a lowly commoner, could fulfill such a role. Rita, however, swiftly cut off her objections, insisting that it would be so. Dismissed, Jana left the room with a resigned "Yes, miss," accepting her new position with a mixture of uncertainty and determination. Alone with Ian, Rita confronted him with a fierce glare, accusing him of cozying up to her fiancé and exploiting her vulnerability. Ian, attempting to feign ignorance, met Rita's accusation with a blank expression. Unwilling to tolerate his pretense, Rita forcefully tore open his shirt, causing buttons to fall to the floor. "I'll show you then," she declared, her tone commanding as she stroked his exposed chest. Leaning in closer as she whispered seductively, "What exactly happened between me and those men right here in this room?" Ian flushed under her gaze, unable to conceal his discomfort. Ian was quiet as shivers ran through his body as he gazed into Rita's eyes. She gazed at him intently, then, "Young Lawrence's son made a proposition," as she pinched his nipple, causing him to moan, suggesting that if I changed my mind, we could all indulge in pleasure together. Rita's firm pinch caused Ian to stutter, a mixture of sensations overwhelming him. She slipped her hand around his neck with a seductive look, her demand delivered with a cold tone and a straight face. "Did he make you such a promise?" Rita's grip tightened his neck momentarily before releasing him, leaving him stunned. Ian denied Rita's accusations, claiming confusion. "That's why you continued to mention my fiancé's name while helping yourself to my body," she said. "Miss, it's not uncommon for such things to happen within noble families. Many couples have affairs. Hence, it can be much easier to overlook the private relationships of one's wife early on. So please," Ian was saying before Rita cut him off sharply. "Shut your mouth," Rita snapped in anger. "Never show yourself in front of me again." "Understand," she seethed, her voice laced with venom. But his response was unwavering. "I cannot do that. You are not my employer, miss." With a swift motion, she delivered a stinging slap, the force of it reverberating through the room, before dismissing him, turning her back to him in a display of disdain. The next day, over tea, Rita noticed the barren finger marks on her arm as she pondered her next move. "Those idiots. How can I teach them a lesson?" she thought, her worry evident. "Do I request the help of Count Alberhart? No, he's the one who arranged the marriage in first place. He wouldn't help," Rita thought to herself, dismissing the idea. She pondered her options for retribution against those who had wronged her. "Miss," Jana's voice interrupted Rita's thoughts as she rushed over. Rita, distracted, asked what the matter was. "Miss, the fortune teller you mentioned the other day has arrived," Jana informed her. "Is that so?" Rita replied with a mischievous smile. "Go and show the fortune teller to the sitting room." And to Ian, Rita paused, considering her plan. Rita headed towards the room to meet her guest but was blocked by Ian. "What are you doing here, Ian?" Rita asked, halting her steps. "Miss, who is inside?" Ian inquired. "None of your business," Rita replied with a smile. "Miss," Ian cried out, seemingly confused by her tone. "No need to react so seriously to a joke." "I'll tell you later," Rita assured him, standing close to the door. "Miss," Ian began, attempting to touch Rita, but they were interrupted by Jana's arrival. "Sir, the gardener is looking for you urgently," Jana exclaimed, rushing towards them. "Go see to it," Rita instructed Ian with a smile. As Ian and Jana left the hallway, Ian glanced back to see Rita wearing an evil grin. Shocked at first, he couldn't help but feel puzzled by her sudden change in demeanor. Why has she changed so much? Ian wondered to himself. It's odd. Meanwhile, Rita entered the room to greet her guest. "A pleasure to meet you, miss," the fortune teller said with a bow. "A pleasure to meet you, miss?" "How iconic," Rita remarked, mimicking his formal demeanor with a disgusted expression. "You sly bastard," she said as she took her seat. "No one is around, so why not take off that stuffy hood and speak freely?" Rita suggested. The fortune teller revealed himself by uncovering his hood. "How is the body treating you, Rita?" he asked. "She's beautiful, rich, and healthy. What do I have to complain about?" Rita replied with a smile. "The forbidden magic took well, perhaps because she's suicidal," the fortune teller remarked. "This was all possible because of you." "Thank you, Yersha," Rita said, revealing the fortune teller's real name. "It was a fair trade." "I require no thanks," Yersha replied. "Say, if you've come to see me already, does that mean?" Rita asked with a serious look. "Yes, she died yesterday," Yersha confirmed. "Is that so?" Rita's expression shifted to one of happiness upon hearing the news about the passing of her body swap, Count Alberhart. "You haven't forgotten about our deal, hm?" Yersha asked Rita with a straight look. "Of course not. What may I do for you?" Rita asked, smiling. In deep thought, "Nothing yet," Yersha replied. The next day, Rita went to confirm the news she received from Yersha. Inside her carriage, she looked at her face in the mirror. Tears of joy rolled down her cheeks. "Gorgeous as always," Rita said, snapping the mirror shut. Upon reaching her destination, she was welcomed by a man and ushered into the morgue. After her condition began to worsen, she passed away 2 days ago in the early hours, the morgue attendant informed Rita as they approached her real body, covered with a white sheet. God, the stench, Rita thought, covering her nose as she perceived the smell. "So young. What a shame," the morgue attendant declared. "I should have visited more often," she said before faking tears. "Rita," she sobbed. She then uncovered her true body's face. "My precious friend, how tragic," she said, a hint of happiness coloring her tone. "Yes, that's my body," she thought, a sense of surrealism washing over her. Rita vividly recalls the moment that altered the trajectory of her life, transporting her from a life of privilege to one of humble servitude. It all commenced during her youth as she skillfully played the organ in the company of her mother and a guest. Rita discreetly listened in on their conversation while continuing to play with serene composure. "I must inspect the crops, but it's a 2-day journey from my home to the border. I would be deeply indebted to you if you allowed me to stay for 3 weeks," the earnest plea of a man resonated in the room. "I'm not sure. I am husbandless and alone with my daughter in this manner. For a son of the Carter family to stay here by himself seems..." Rita's mother paused, her words trailing off momentarily. Then what if several others were to stay with me?" I am good friends with your late husband's brother, Sir Charles Wicker, and his son, he suggested, eliciting a flicker of fear in Rita's mother's eyes. She clasped her dress tightly, grappling with her thoughts. Remember, it's common in high society to stay at another family's residence, she reassured herself before speaking again. I suppose, then I hope you find your stay restful, rundown as the manner may be, Rita's mother replied innocently, extending a warm welcome to her guest. Thank you, madam, the man responded softly, taking her hand as he plants a kiss, ostensibly showing gratitude. Yet, behind his charming facade lurked a sinister intent as her mother blushed at his gesture. Rita's mother, in her naivety, was completely enamored with the man within a mere 2 weeks. One day while in her room, Rita's mother mistook a stranger for him. Proud, come in, she greeted him with genuine joy, unaware of the impending danger. As a stranger came in, shocking her. What a warm welcome, it's an honor, madam, the stranger responded as he approached swiftly, his intentions veiled in deceit. Rita's mother demanded, her voice trembling with fear. Where's Proud? What are you doing here? She stuttered, her apprehension palpable. However, before she could comprehend the danger, the stranger forcefully subdued her, silencing her protests as he was about to commit a heinous act. Madam, the stranger called her, his voice a sinister whisper as he licked her neck, eliciting tears from Rita's mother's eyes. Back in the present, Rita stood in the morgue, observing her real body with a mixture of detachment and sorrow. Looks like she suffered from a relentless cough until her final breath. Come to think of it, it was such a miserable life. Reflecting on her own existence, Rita couldn't help but contemplate the misery that had befallen them since that fateful day 10 years prior as she thought back to her past. Help me, help me! Rita's mother's desperate screams pierced the air, summoning everyone, including Rita, to her room. The sight of the man atop her mother bewildered them all. Mother, Rita cried, tears welling in her eyes as she trembled at the sight. However, her uncle unleashed a barrage of accusations. You cheating woman, you were cheating with the servants behind my brother's back, weren't you? Rita's uncle bellowed furiously, leaving Rita's mother paralyzed with fear, unable to utter a word. Perhaps Rita isn't even Baron Wicker's true daughter, Proud said. As Rita grappled with the shock of the accusations against her mother, she couldn't shake the realization of Proud's deceitful machinations. Within days, they were both cast out from the Wicker family, their noble status stripped away. A decade later, Rita found herself reduced from a noblewoman to a pub waitress, her life marred by suffering and hardship. Stricken with illness, she coughed up blood at the back of the bar where she worked, lamenting her fate. If only I had ended it all like Mother did back then, I wouldn't have had to suffer like this, Rita muttered to herself, gazing at the blood on her palm. Desperately ripped a poster and wiping her mouth with the torn poster, she glanced at the face printed upon it, Yersha, wanted for murder, accused of witchcraft. Not minding the bounty money, Rita recalls having seen Yersha's face before. The man next door, she mumbles, covering her mouth. But why does it say he's a woman? Rita wonders, perplexed by the discrepancy. However, her boss's call interrupts her thoughts, prompting her to return to work. All right, I'm coming, Rita responds before discreetly tucking the wanted poster into her pocket. I'll probably go to the hospital once I'm done with work, she murmurs to herself before rejoining her duties inside the pub. At the hospital, Rita receives her examination results from the doctor, who advises her to prepare herself for the news. Saddened by the revelation, Rita finds herself questioning her fate amidst the crowd, grappling with a sense of sadness and uncertainty. Why me? Rita whispers to herself, seeking solace as she leans against a wall for support, her mind consumed by despair as she knew her days were numbered. Soon after, she's placed in quarantine. Surprisingly, Count Alberhart takes an interest in visiting Rita, prompting Rita's frustration and anger. That girl again, why won't she just leave me alone? Rita mutters to herself as she waits behind a glass wall, observing Verta's cautious approach. As they sit in silence, Rita braces herself for whatever nonsense Verta might utter this time. However, Verta's unexpected words catch her off guard. Rita, I envy you. Very soon you'll be in a deep sleep, free from pain or suffering, Verta expresses, revealing her own inner turmoil. Rita struggles to comprehend Verta's pain, her anger bubbling to the surface. What the hell is this girl saying? Rita thinks, her expression turning perplexed. As Verta displays self-inflicted cuts on her wrist as she asks, "Can you understand why I envy you now?" In a fit of frustration, Rita lashes out in anger, shouting and punching a nearby tree. Rita couldn't fathom Verta's twisted perspective, the notion of telling a terminal patient that she envied their impending death utterly confounding her. "If you want to die so badly, take my place," Rita exclaims, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want to die yet," she cries, overwhelmed by a mix of emotions. Suddenly Rita hears the sound of a carriage approaching and quickly hides behind a tree to avoid being spotted. As the carriage stops, a man emerges, Prince Van Brandt, the Justice of Osland's Supreme Court. Rita blushes upon seeing him, but her heart sank as another familiar face emerges from the carriage. That man, she thought, her expression turning to one of anger, his cunning smile etched in her memory. Proud Carter. How is he here, Rita thought as she observed from a distance as Proud Carter and Prince Van Brandt conversed while strolling side by side. "So this is the welfare center privately run by Prince Van Brandt," Proud Carter remarked with a hint of admiration in his voice. "Noblesse obliges. I am simply doing my duty as a noble," Prince Van Brandt responded humbly. "To take in sick commoners, you are very generous," Proud Carter complimented, a smile gracing his lips. "You flatter me. I hear you've proposed many welfare plans yourself, Marquis Carter," Prince Brandt replied, deflecting the praise smoothly. Rita recalled the political dynamics she had observed. Marquis Carter, I remember he had been battling with his older sister over who would become heir. But I guess Proud won, she thought to herself. "Travel safely now," Prince Van Brandt said as they parted ways. "I have to live," she thought as her fingers unconsciously scratched the tree trunk with frustration. "Even if I have to sell my soul to the devil," she thought as she bit her lip unconsciously. In the present moment, Rita stood still, her gaze fixed on her own lifeless body. "If it wasn't for Yersha, I'd be the one on this table," she reflected bitterly. "Verta, you can stop envying me now. Sleep in peace," she murmured softly, attempting to gently close her corpse's mouth before being interrupted by the man attending to the body. "Hey now, be careful. The host may be dead, but the risk of infection with consumption is still high," he cautioned, prompting Rita to cover her nose in response. "You should have mentioned it earlier," she thought. "Is there no one to bury her?" Rita inquired, her empathy evident as she sought to ensure a respectful farewell for the orphaned deceased. "Yes. She's an orphan with not even one relative," the man informed her. "Then I'd like to at least bury her," Rita asserted, removing a gold ring from her finger and offering it to the man. "Can you cremate her body?" she requested. The man grinned with greed, swiftly taking the ring and slipping it into his pocket. Despite his actions, he expressed admiration for Rita's kindness. "You are so kind-hearted." As expected of a lady, he remarked warmly, his tone tinged with insincerity. "Hans," someone called the morgue attendant, interrupting their chat as the man flinched. "There you are." Prince Van Brandt entered the morgue unexpectedly as she recognized him. "Your Royal Highness. What brings your honorable presence to the morgue?" Hans asked. He glanced at her as she met Prince Van Brandt's gaze, her hand extended to her gown in a graceful gesture of introduction as she bowed. "It is an honor, Your Royal Highness. I am Verta, daughter of Count Alberhart," she added, dipping into a polite curtsy, her demeanor poised and dignified. "She visits quite often," Prince Van Brandt thought, taken aback by Rita's unexpected presence. He gently took her hand and placed a kiss upon it. "Pleased to meet you, Lady Verta," he replied, though his eyes momentarily wandered to her chest area, causing her to smile bashfully. He flinched at her smile before quickly averting his gaze, clearing his throat in discomfort. "Lady Verta, what brings you to visit this sort of place?" Prince Van Brandt inquired, trying to regain his composure. Rita, summoning tears to her eyes, feigned a sob. Forgive me, Your Highness. You see, a patient I looked after departed from this world yesterday, she explained, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Oh dear, Prince Van Brandt expressed genuine sympathy. I have yet to gather myself. I'm sorry to ask this, but I'd like to grieve the deceased. So, Rita requested delicately. Would you mind leaving the room? I sincerely hope grieving will relieve some of your sadness, Lady Verta, Prince Van Brandt replied solemnly before bowing and taking his leave, though he couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled by Rita's behavior. Exiting the room, he paused for a moment, contemplating. I thought for sure that she'd want to be comforted, he mused softly to himself as he glanced at her shedding tears before continuing on his way. Come to think of it, her demeanor seems different. Meanwhile, left alone with Hans, Rita smiled mischievously. Well then, Hans, she began, her voice playful. Please continue with your work, Rita felt a surge of joy as she scattered Verta's ashes, finally freeing herself from her worries. She couldn't help but laugh, the weight of her burdens lifted. This feels amazing. All my worries are over, she exclaimed happily, her grin widening at the thought of what lay ahead. Now all that's left is Yersha, Rita thought with determination. Well, I suppose one could say he did save my life. Let's just wait and see. Later, in her room, Rita idly groomed her hair as she observed the maids gossiping. This weather is so amazing. Perfect for a day outside, remarked a maid, attempting to engage Rita in conversation. Miss, is there anywhere you might like to go? Jana asked. When I feel the warm spring wind, I naturally think of my friends, Rita replied casually, her words causing Jana to react with disbelief. Pardon? Friends? She questioned, clearly surprised by Rita's statement. Does that mean you'd like to visit Duke Shade's estate? Jana asked Rita, still perplexed at her mentioning friends. Only Duke Shade's? That would make my other friends feel left out, don't you think? Rita replied, her tone light and playful. Forgive me, miss. Dull-witted as I am, I have yet to fully grasp all of your friendships. If you tell me the names of the other households, I shall contact them immediately, Jana said timidly as Rita glared at her, causing her to flinch. Rita realized that although Verta was a count's daughter, she seemed to have only one friend. It seemed strange to her that in the week she had been in Verta's body, she hadn't received even a single invitation or letter. Forget it, call the Duke's estate and ask if I may visit. Receive an answer by the afternoon, Rita said, pretending to be disgusted by Jana's inquiry. Yes, Miss Verta, Jana replied, rushing to attend to her errand. Rita continued brushing her hair, feeling a bit scornful. Still, there were only 2 dukes in Osland, and her only friend was the daughter of one. Not bad, Rita thought. In a different scene, a lady appeared. Welcome, Ver, it's been far too long, Julia Shade, Duke Shade's eldest daughter, said warmly, welcoming Rita to the Shade's castle. Thank you for inviting me, Julia, Rita said, looking radiant as she smiled at Julia Shade. I was starting to get sad since I haven't heard from you at all lately, Julia told Rita as they got seated. I'm sorry, I had a few things to take care of, Rita replied. That can happen, Julia said, laughing. Rita was taken by Julia's demeanor, amazed at Julia's gentleness. But then why was Verta avoiding Julia? Rita asked herself, still smiling as she listened to Julia. According to Jana, Verta had been lying every time Julia requested to meet. The ladies soon moved outdoors, enjoying the serenity of nature over a cup of tea. How have you been? Julia asks Rita warmly, her tone filled with genuine concern. I have been quite busy. At the welfare center I do charity work for, one of the patients I was close to passed away, Rita reveals, displaying a sad demeanor. Oh no. Julia said, empathizing with her. The welfare center that Prince Brandt runs, right? Julia asks, seeming impressed. Rita confirms with a glance. Nothing strange about her yet, Rita thinks. How unfortunate, Julia said. You like strawberry chocolate cake, right? This is from the best cake shop in the city, Julia says, handing a piece of cake to Rita, to which she thanked her as she accepted the cake. By the way, how are things between you and your fiancé lately? Julia asks Rita as she eats her cake. It's too hard to say, Rita replies with a fake smile. My, seems like you still don't care for Count Lawrence's son, Julia comments, faking a smile. This bitch, would you like that pervert if you were me? Rita thinks angrily, still acting calm. Acting like the victim of an arranged marriage. How typical, Julia says, smiling. I told you last time. Tell Count Alberhart you do not wish to be married. It's your life. Why not take responsibility and just say something? Julia questions Rita's choice. Rita gives a muted response, reflecting on Julia's words. Build your abilities like me. If you make plans and work hard, it's not that difficult. Julia says. Well, studying fencing like me may be difficult for you, but if you study, you could always apply to be a government official, Julia adds proudly. Rita now understands why Verta avoided Julia. Birds of a feather flock together. Aside from Verta, I bet you don't have any other friends either, Rita thought. I'll be enlisting in the Royal Guard soon, so I'll be busy, but if you ever decide to make a stand for yourself, I'll do everything possible to help. I'm your friend Julia says. My, I see the beautiful ladies have come out for a spring picnic, someone interjects as he steps closer, stunning the girls. Blaine Shade, Duke Shade's eldest son, walked in on them. Blaine, Julia said in a displeased tone. It's an honor to meet the future Duke Shade, Rita said, getting up to greet Blaine. Blaine smiled at her as he purposely passed his sister, behaving as though she wasn't present. Lady Verta, you are as beautiful as ever, Blaine said, taking Rita's hand with a smile. Rita noticed Julie full of envy as she socialized with Blaine. It seems like you were on your way out. Allow me to escort you to the front, Lady Verta, Blaine said to Rita, holding her hand affectionately. I'll see you again next time, Julie, Rita said in a playful manner, blushing. She knew she would never see Julia again. As they walked elbow to Rita's carriage, Blaine commended her dress, saying it was different from what she usually wore. I decided to change my style. It's spring after all, Rita told Blaine. Your new style suits you much better. You seem like a magnolia flower in full bloom, Blaine teased her. You flatter me, Rita replied. Rita mentioned to Blaine that his sister Julia mentioned she'd be enlisting in the Royal Guard. I'm sure you are quite worried for your younger sister, Rita said. Blaine confessed he was worried, expressing concern that one day, while guarding the royal family, his immature younger sister might say something wrong, bringing dishonor to the Shade's name. You understand what I mean, right? Blaine asked Rita as she just smiled. Approaching the entrance of her carriage, about to leave, Blaine grabbed Rita's hand, perplexing her. Leaning in close, Blaine whispered, if you have any plans to ease my worries, please feel free to let me know. I will assist to the best of my ability, his tone carrying a seductive undertone. Rita remained silent as she gazed at him, her mind spinning with thoughts about the ongoing rivalry between the siblings over who will be heir. It suddenly made sense why Julia had been so persistent about joining the Royal Guard. It was all part of their power struggle for the heirship. If Julie were to emerge victorious and become the Countess, Rita foresaw nothing but trouble ahead. After much deliberation, Rita resolved that she couldn't sit idly by. For the sake of her own peace and happiness, she must intervene. Miss, is everything all right? Blaine Shade's inquiry broke through Rita's reverie. Rita managed a tight-lipped smile, masking her inner turmoil. Oh, nothing, she murmured, her tone betraying none of the turmoil within. Blaine's surprise at her stoic facade didn't escape Rita's notice. Once she might have played the part of the attention-seeking damsel, but now she wore her mask with practiced ease, he realized. Thank you for the escort. Goodbye now, Rita bid Blaine farewell, her voice a carefully crafted facade of normalcy. Days later, Rita found herself once again in the company of Blaine and the rider, standing before the imposing gates of Alberhart's castle. Disguised in a crimson gown with a hood obscuring her features, she listened as Blaine greeted her with unexpected warmth. We meet again sooner than I expected, Lady Verta, Blaine said, his smile genuine. Yes, Rita replied, her mind already racing ahead to the task at hand. Are all the preparations finished? Of course, Blaine replied, his smile unwavering. Shall we go check on the preparations together? Very well. We have much to do, Rita agreed, pulling her hood closer to conceal her identity. Ian stepped out in silence as they entered the carriage and departed for their destination. As they rode in silence, Blaine stole a glance at her, his thought wandering. She hasn't complained once about the dirty carriage, and she chose not to wear one of those dresses she likes so much just to disguise herself. This entire time I took her for a simple, spoiled brat. Rita sensed Blaine's scrutiny, his observations no doubt fueled by curiosity. With practiced ease she maintained her charismatic demeanor, offering him a smile as he smiled back. Suddenly Blaine's voice broke the silence. By the way, how did you know about the illegal brothel operating within our Duke's domain? Rita's mind raced, carefully considering her response. She needed to tread carefully, ensuring her words revealed nothing of her true intentions. I simply did, Rita responded to Blaine's question with a grin, her expression enigmatic. Blaine, clearly surprised by her response, looked at her in disbelief. And how do you know that the head of the royal guard, Count Todd, was a pedophile? He persisted. Rita's gaze shifted to the window, her voice soft. You know, they say a woman with many secrets is the most beautiful, she remarked cryptically, her words carrying a weight of sadness. In that moment Rita's demeanor faltered, a brief glimpse of pain crossing her features. She knew Blaine was unaware of the trauma she endured during her time in Count Todd's household. The memories weighed heavily on her, hidden beneath her composed exterior. Despite the sadness that lingered in her heart, Rita remained determined to keep her past hidden, understanding that her secrets were her armor. In her past, Countess Todd, a close friend of Rita's mother, recommended Rita for a position as a private tutor for the Count's only son, Lieben. Welcome, I've heard all about your situation from my wife, Count Todd said with a smile that day. So unfortunate, he added, bending to plant a kiss on Rita's cheek in a manner that made her uncomfortable. Hugging Rita, the Count said he entrusted his son Lieben to her. You're welcome to stay in my house as long as you like, Count Todd said excitedly. Thank you, Count Todd, Rita stammered, feeling uncomfortable. However, on one occasion, Count Todd forcefully touched Rita inappropriately. Sir, why are you doing this? Rita pleaded, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and confusion. Please don't do this, she begged as the Count tried to take unfair advantage of her. As Count Todd tried to take advantage of Rita, Lieben suddenly barged into the room, calling out for Miss Rita. Startled, Rita stuttered his name amidst tears, clutching her hands to her chest in fear. Later at dinner, the family ate together in silence as Rita was deep in thought. Suddenly, Count Todd struck Rita's leg from under the table. Feeling scared and intimidated, Rita remained quiet, pretending that nothing was happening to her, though her heart raced with fear and discomfort. Why do you keep touching Rita, father? She doesn't like it, Lieben demanded, breaking the tense silence at the dining table. Chills ran down Rita's spine as she heard his words. Countess Todd slammed her hand on the dining table as she glared at her husband. Lieben, go to your room, she ordered sternly as she returned her gaze to her husband. Dear, shall we talk outside? Countess Todd suggested to her husband, and they both stepped out of the dining room, leaving Rita alone with her thoughts to wrestle with the unsettling events of the evening. Time seemed to drag on as Rita sat in silence, her mind consumed by a whirlwind of emotions and uncertainties. Eventually the Countess returned, her expression somber as she approached Rita to address the distressing situation. I must apologize. I never imagined he would do this to the daughter of my close friend, she said with genuine remorse. You're a lady of a respectable household, and yet he acted like a common thug, the Countess added, hiding a tear in her eyes. I'll provide you with ample compensation. Think of it as my way of apologizing. Unfortunately, I must ask you to leave, Countess Todd informed Rita. Unable to hold back her tears any longer, Rita cried silently as the Countess left the room, promising to find another place for her to stay. Rita clenched her dress tightly, feeling a mix of sadness and relief wash over her as tears dropped from her eyes, signaling the end of the haunting flashback. As she sat quietly in the carriage as she pondered her situation. If I had gone to the place the Countess arranged for me, would things be different? That man still would have found me, right? She wondered, her mind troubled by unanswered questions. Despite the turmoil in her thoughts, Rita found solace in her decision to work at the tavern was a better choice. No need to think back on such despicable memories, she thought. It offered her a sense of freedom and independence, a refuge from the painful memories of her past. Lost in her thoughts, Rita was abruptly brought back to the present by Blaine Shade's voice cutting through her reverie. "Lady Verta, we've arrived," he informed her, his words gently pulling her back to reality. "This is the Peach of May," Blaine added, a hint of anticipation in his tone as they prepared to embark on their next endeavor. Arriving at their destination, the carriage comes to a halt. "Is this the place?" Blaine asks Rita, who is well disguised in her robe. "Yes," Rita replies affirmatively, her gaze fixed on the nondescript building before them. Somewhere in the city, in an undisclosed location, a man is held hostage by Blaine Shade's men, the tension palpable as they await further instructions. With his eyes blindfolded, the man begs, trembling, asking why they are doing this to him. But no one utters a word as the door suddenly opens. "You're here," one of Blaine Shade's men says, upon entering the room with Rita. Everyone bows respectfully as they acknowledge his presence. My, Blaine says dejectedly, his disappointment evident in his tone as he takes in the situation before him. "This place is merely an ordinary fruit shop," the bound man cries out desperately, his voice echoing in the dimly lit room. "This is all just a misunderstanding," he begs, pleading for mercy. Ignoring his pleas, one of Blaine's men kicks him harshly on the head, causing him to crumple to the ground in pain, his words drowned out by the violence of the act. "Don't be so afraid. I merely wanted to make a proposal," Blaine Shade begins, his voice smooth but carrying a subtle menace. Rita, not uttering a word, observes just how ruthless Blaine Shade is at that very moment. He's got the talent for this, she thought to herself. Blaine nods at one of his men, signaling him with a silent gesture. Instantly the man raises the captured individual by the hair, eliciting a pained scream from him. "Amongst your patrons at your filthy fruit stand, there is one particularly enthusiastic regular. His name is Count Todd," Blaine Shade says to the man, making him twitch at the name. "I take it you know each other very well," Blaine asks with a straight face, but the man remains silent, his fear palpable in the tense air of the room. "Oh my, this is our first time meeting, and I fear I've given you a bad impression." "How rude of me," he said sarcastically, his tone laced with mockery. "Let's have a nice chat, you and me." "Just the two of us," Blaine Shade said in a seemingly friendly manner, his gaze flickering briefly to Rita, who remains silent, her expression unreadable as she observes the unfolding scene. Rita nods her head with an evil glint in her eyes, her silent approval evident as the man cries out in pain under Blaine's interrogation. Leaving the room, Rita pauses, her mind drifting back to her past life. She reflects on the choices that led her to this moment, the darkness within her stirring with a sense of purpose. How many children have suffered inside this extravagant place, she ponders upon as she leaves the illegal brothel. Count Todd must have a taste of his own bitter medicine, Rita says softly, her voice tinged with quiet determination and a mysterious grin playing on her lips. A few days later, Count Todd arrives at the brothel. He coughs lightly as he signals the attendant, who approaches. "Count Todd, welcome," the attendant says, greeting with a bow. "Which peach shall I arrange for you today?" he inquires. Do you have any new peaches?" Count Todd says with indifference as they speak in their own secret language. "Of course, follow me this way," the brothel attendant says, smiling, leading Count Todd to his private room. Count Todd opens the door to see a young girl seated on the bed in a nightgown, her demeanor timid yet expectant. "Am I your first customer?" Count Todd asks her in a casual tone. The girl nods, her cheeks tinted with a blush, confirming his query with a shy gesture. Count Todd is taken aback as he notices a striking resemblance between the girl before him and Rita, a resemblance that puzzles him deeply. Rita, now that was an appetizing girl, the Count thought. If only my idiot son had kept his mouth shut, he mutters to himself as he sat on the bed. You're cute. How old are you? Count Todd questions the girl. 17, the girl responded shyly as he tried to touch her face. You're older than I thought, Count Todd remarks disdainfully, his tone dripping with scorn as he looks upon Risa. Unbeknownst to him, the girl had lied about her age, for she was actually 25 years old. Nevertheless, she confidently holds a wine bottle, her demeanor poised as she proceeds to pour a glass of wine for Count Todd with practiced ease. I've even lied about my age for money, she thought to herself. Taking the glass of wine from her, Count Todd questions her name as he drank the wine. Risa, the girl stuttered. Count Todd pauses momentarily, his gaze lingering on her as he heard her name, before resuming his drink with an air of nonchalance. What a pretty name. Well then, shall we begin? Count Todd said to Risa after dropping his empty glass. Count Todd begins unbuttoning his shirt but finds his buttons stuck. Why isn't it unbuttoning, he questions himself as he struggles with the buttons. Risa, with a sharp look, knows this is her chance, so she must act quickly. In an instant, she jumps on Count Todd, pinning him down on the bed. Count Todd is taken aback by Risa's sudden assertiveness, his surprise evident in his widened eyes and furrowed brow. Before he can react, Risa grabs his belt firmly. What Count Todd didn't know was that Risa wasn't the girl's real name. This girl had been employed by Rita and paid handsomely for services. If you cut off his pecker, you'll get double the payment, Rita tells the girl, offering her a deal. Upon hearing about the reward, the girl grins widen with greed. With that kind of money, she knows she can finally stop living as an escort and start a normal life. Empowered by the opportunity to secure her future, the girl brings out a knife and swiftly carries out the deed, her actions decisive and without hesitation. Count Todd's agonized scream echoes, piercing the air and resonating for miles around, marking the grim culmination of his misdeeds.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.